Hello everyone, today we're going to take a look at Betafpv's Pavo20 Pro 2. Of course, this is the second iteration, hence the 2. And we're not going to follow my typical format. We're going to stick to mainly my preferred flight style, which shows usually any sort of PID deficiencies. If you're interested in things like flight times and batteries that fit the little tray, of course, you don't have to run the tray just as it is. I cover all those things on the original video, the Pavo20 Pro. And I will link that down in the video description. We're going to stick to mainly my faster flight, and we will weigh it up, though, before we go outside. The original weighed 110.5 grams, and this version 2 weighs 113.38 grams. The recommended battery is the Betafpv Lava 550. That is a 3S battery. Again, like I said before, I cover all the other different batteries that I have that fits this and the flight times in my previous video, which will be linked in the video description. With that battery, it weighs 155.86 grams. Original carbon fiber is 2mm thick, and so is the 2. It does have a bright set of LEDs that rotates colors through the different cycles. And with that LED, it does have a daughter board that is right here, and it's just kind of laid between the post for the mount and the mount itself. We'll discuss that more here as we get into it. As you can see sitting here on the table, it doesn't quite sit flat. You got to get the buckle in the right spot. I didn't get myself overly concerned with that. I just wanted to go out and fly. Speaking of the flight, the conditions for this particular flight, excuse me, geez, I'm tongue-tied. 41 degrees Fahrenheit, so not exactly warm. It was actually 57 today, but I didn't get any outside flight time today. So this came a few days ago, and yeah, it was chilly. And winds 9 to 14 miles an hour, so a little bit more wind maybe than you might want to in all cases. If you saw my video here recently where I was talking about manufacturers and the PID tunes that they apply, Betafpv is one of the few companies that can say, I don't recall any of their quads suffering from that zero throttle wobble. So when you do punch outs and things of that nature where you get that camera wobble, it's actually the entire quad wobbling. So you have to give them credit. It may not be perfect. It may not be, as they like to say, locked in, but at least it doesn't have that flight deficiency in the PID tune that we do see quite frequently, especially in these prop protected style of quads. You could call this a whoop because it's kind of close to that 2-inch prop size. I think it's actually 2.2, but I think most of us would just call this still a Cinewoop. And if you like to fly like I do, this is how it flies with a 550 milliamp 3S battery. Yeah, we had a new stick that laid down in the yard, and I was able to pass underneath it. That wasn't the only time I was able to do it, but I think I did hit it at least once, or maybe I had to do something ugly in order to avoid hitting the tree as I got down to the fence line. In my mind, one of my flights, I tried to go underneath that, but didn't quite make it. But I came in a little hot on that cradle and ended up going over my my neighbor's fence. I do get a fair number of questions about my neighbors and them being annoyed with my flying, and that's not the case at all. I know I've covered this a few times on my channel, so I apologize for those that have heard before, but we're all very friendly with our neighbors. We generally, when we get a new neighbor in the yard, because we have lived here almost 16, 17 years now, we make a point to meet them and to talk to them a little bit. And I don't immediately go into, I fly drones and it's noisy. We leave that for a later time. And oftentimes a newer neighbor will come out and ask me about them. I do get their cell phones from them. One of the things that we just kind of do in this neighborhood as part of the HOA is we do share phones for everyone. So I have all the neighbors on a text thread, and I text them that I'm going to go outside and I'm going to fly. And if they have anything going on, like they have a planned barbecue or they got friends coming over, they're going to be outside in their space, to just let me know, and I'll make sure not to bother them. And I think just that extension of kind of an olive branch really helps in these situations where some neighbors might get annoyed, but they have an opportunity to tell me not to fly. Every once in a while, I'll have a neighbor sneak out. I say sneak out, but they come out into their space, and I'll oftentimes shut my flying down. So I try not to make myself an annoyance, so they can enjoy their outdoor space just as I'd want to enjoy my indoor space. But we're coming in here for the landing. You can see there we landed nicely on the table. 3.51 volts on the average battery per cell, so just about where I want it, and nearly 3 minutes and 10 seconds. So I have to start off with one of my concerns, and I kind of tried to show it to you right away, is with this daughter board up here, the wire that comes hard soldered to the board, the flight controller, has to come up, and then I think it's this one that plugs in, and then this one goes down through the LEDs. I did ask Betafpv about this installation to make sure I was doing it right. And then it blocks technically your USB port. So you've got to kind of move the wires. As you can see, I've got out of the way. I also added a piece of tape to the bottom to make sure the LED wires didn't slip out. And then I trimmed it down around the whoops. I did it as well on the original. And with that board, it actually, if we look at the side profile view, we can see as I press here on the front of the camera, it's got that rubber vibration dampening, and you might even be able to see the screw head down there coming down. The screw heads, just like in the old version, they go up and they seat up here, so they've got just the right size of screw head and thread length. But with this daughter board back here, it doesn't hardly move at all. It's actually, the mount is going right down on the daughter board there. So we get a touch of movement, but just not very much. You can see the screw head just a touch. One of my concerns is in crashes, especially when we crash on, with this portion down, are we going to end up damaging that daughter board? And I think eventually, with a hard enough crash, yeah, how robust is that daughter board? Can't really say, so to speak, but, that was one of my concerns going into this, and it's something that you need to be aware of if you're considering this. If you already have the original, I don't think there's a compelling feature to switch over to the version 2. I think you'll be perfectly happy still because not that much has changed. Betafpv does have a second PID profile on this if you want to run the 04 Lite or Walk Snail or HD0 video system on this. It's tuned for a little bit of a lighter setup when you take out the 04 Pro. Also, a couple of differences that you probably noticed already, but we have the traditional 2 antennas, and then we also have the hard mounts that are part of the mounting system for the VTX and camera. Over here, they have things done a little bit differently. It's hard to see, but these are rubber pieces, and they seat up into these holes, and then you thread your antenna through here, and these are flexible, as you can see here. So that is a difference. Of course, the weight, as I was starting to get to, is going to be different between a traditional antenna setup and the micro antenna setup. This is going to give you slightly better reception, especially in difficult areas, than this one would here, but it's going to be marginal and depend a lot on your environment. You can also see from the frame design that it bulges out a little bit here on the 2, and that's just a change that they made, I think, to make it more convenient for some different purposes, I think. Let me look at one other thing I keep forgetting. Yes, we do have motor connectors, so if you did need to replace a motor, they just have connectors. You don't have to hard solder, same as with the old board here as well. When I did first get mine, I could not find the wire that goes from the board into that daughter board. And so I ended up, getting it sideways and getting my little headset on it. Eventually I found it down there, so I was able to fish it out. So if you get one, you think, hey, I'm missing a wiring. I did too. I thought that as well. Just turns out I just wasn't seeing it because it was buried up underneath there. Of course, as I said earlier in the video, as well as my previous video, you don't have to fly this particular battery size. You could clip out these pieces, they're just plastic. You could take some side cutters, wire cutters, and cut these little flanges or upright versions off of each side, and then run various sorts of battery sizes. So you're not locked in, but the 550 from Betafpv does fit this quite nicely, so that might be something that you want to pay a special attention to. It does come with additional mounting screws and repair screws, as well as additional props, as well as a mount for the 04 Lite or the Walk Snail or HD0 video system. You would use these components depending upon what you're doing. I don't think the previous version came with both brackets for mounting the different video systems, so that also is a change. But I believe you can find these available separately. So if you wanted to make this version a bit lighter and go with an 04 lighter, or maybe you just have one and you're switching over to Walk Snail because of DJI problems or issues, you just want to try something else, I think you can just pick up the bracket off of Betafpv's website to put it on your original if you were to want to do that. Just to highlight one more thing that is also the same as the original, even though I was flying at this camera angle, it does have more camera angle you can get. One of the things that I've noticed about Betafpv over some other companies as well when it comes to their mounts that they make, that they have more camera angle available. Usually I get maxed out before I get to the level that I want, the angle that I want. In Betafpv's case, I can go quite a bit more, and you can see up here at the hood, we've got a little bit more that we can go up in this direction too. So it's not just with the screw mounts, but also in the hood that protects the camera from those upper impacts. As far as camera protection goes, we do have some. This sticks out about as far as the little native camera protection on the 04 camera. So we do have a little bit more than we might otherwise, or we see in a lot of other quads. So that's something to consider if you're shopping in comparison, is camera protection. We do have some, although it is plastic. So if you hit something super hard, you hit it direct and you hit it at speed, probably won't necessarily save your bacon, but at least you have an opportunity, because this is more camera protection than I recall seeing on other Cinewhoops. As I've said more than once in this video, if you're looking at long cruisy flight times and you want to know what those flight times are on various batteries, I have that in my original video, and that will be linked down in the video description. More detailed discussion that is very, very relatable to the version 2 can also be found. They didn't change the motor KV. They didn't change the flight controller some fundamental way. We kind of quickly went over those things. It's really the LEDs, the antenna mounts, and the fact that you get mounts for both the Pro, DJI Pro, 04 Pro, as well as for Walksnail or the 04 Lite or HD0. You can use those other pieces. Those should be included as far as what I've been able to find on the website. Of course, this has been around for a while, and if there's something that I may have missed or glazed over here, hopefully my counterparts out there have already covered it, so you probably are already aware of that as well. If you are interested in the Betafpv Pavo20 Pro 2, there will be a link down in the video description to any of the places that I can find it, and if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.